Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Wednesday, November 24th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. With Thanksgiving just hours away, many of us are planning to once again gather with family and friends. But there is still concern about COVID. KPBS reporter John Carroll has advice from an expert on how to stay safe during the holidays.
We should consider fully vaccinated is 3 shots.
Dr. Eric Topol's top line as we head into the holidays: if you're not already vaccinated, get the shot. And if you're more than 6 months past your second dose, get the booster, now available to everyone 18 and older.
When a person reaches 6 months, all these vaccines have significant waning.
Topol directs the Scripps Research Translational Institute. He's a nationally recognized expert in infectious diseases. While San Diego County is in pretty good shape with nearly 76% of residents fully vaccinated, it's a different story nationwide. Only 59% are fully vaccinated, and that's a big problem since viruses don't stay put.
We need to get 90% of this country's population vaccinated.
Topol says it's sad that we've had to resort to mandates, but he says they work. And he says a new COVID pill that's on the horizon will be very helpful as long as it's taken within the first 5 days of infection. Even with the concerning situation as we head into winter, Topol says we won't see any more lockdowns. But as we gather for holiday celebrations in groups where we're unsure about everyone's vaccination status, he says it will be more important than ever to mask up. There's another critical tool for protecting ourselves when we plan on gathering with others: testing. On that front, Topol says the United States is completely failing.
We don't even have the tests here. In Europe, there's over 100 rapid tests that are available. We have 1 not available and expensive. It should be free. It should be available to every household to pick up, and it can be used like for the holiday gatherings.
As far as traveling goes, Topol says if you're fully vaccinated, booster included, you're good to go.
But if not, I'd be worried if you're 5-6 months out.
Bottom line, take every precaution you can to make the holiday as safe as it can be as this stubborn pandemic continues. John Carroll, KPBS News.
Gusty and warm Santa Ana winds are back, and that means increased fire danger. KPBS reporter Kitty Alvarado shows us how the fire department and people in the East County are preparing.
You can already feel the warm winds sweeping across the East County. The infamous Santa Ana winds that blow toward the ocean and dry everything in their path are going to peak on Thursday and Friday. The National Weather Service has issued a red flag warning for those days. That means fire danger is critical. SDG&E has already notified 43,000 customers in fire-prone areas they may have to cut off power on Thanksgiving.
It's been a few years around here now, so and that fuel's there, so that's what we worry about.
George Wildberger is among those alerted. Having lived in Ramona for over 20 years, he's ready and is used to the Santa Anas this time of year, and actually likes this new power safety shutoff policy.
I'm kind of glad that they do that now, rather than leave everything live out there in the backcountry and let the fires start. So that's really the biggest thing with the wind, is the fires.
He's already been through a few fires, one that hit too close to home.
We had to spend almost a week wondering whether the house was still there. And finally, one of the guys that lived up by me called me up and said, yeah, your house is still there. Everything else is gone.
Kathleen Carrar says the Santa Anas are not welcome guests.
The last time, it blew my whole fence down.
While she didn't know about the warning, she says living in Ramona, you just have to be ready. Her documents are safe, her property is cleared of debris, and her generator is ready to go to keep the basics running.
You can always eat sandwiches, but I do have insulin that has to be kept cold and medications like that. And my husband's handicapped, so I'm just the sole person in the family who has to take care of everything that goes wrong.
All of our frontline fire engines, hand crews, bulldozers, water tenders, and aircraft are all staffed and ready to respond at a moment's notice.
Captain Frank Lococo says CAL FIRE San Diego is prepared and ready for anything. He urges everyone to do the same because these conditions are ripe for wildfires that can quickly grow out of control.
The strong winds coupled with the low relative humidity, the elevated temperatures, and these lower fuel moistures can lead to critical fire weather. And a small fire, if established, can grow quickly in these conditions.
He also says to be extra cautious if you're cooking outdoors, have a plan and a fire extinguisher handy just in case. In Ramona, Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
ComicCon is back with a special edition starting this Friday. COVID caused its cancellation last year, but now a smaller show will have extra safety precautions. Today, attendees received their COVID wristbands and entry badges. Travis Beatty, who traveled from St. Louis, finally got tickets after years of trying.
Being a lifelong nerd and all the fandoms come together in San Diego to spread the love. And it was our chance to come. So it's like forego Thanksgiving with the family, moved Thanksgiving up a week and got on a plane, and here we are in sunny San Diego instead of Missouri where it's cold.
And of course, as you might expect, this smaller Comic-Con is going to be different from the last event held back in 2019. Coming up on Evening Edition, a preview of what fans can expect. Father Joe's Villages started celebrating Thanksgiving a day early. KPBS reporter Melissa May was there and brings us this report.
Volunteers and staff prepared and served a Thanksgiving meal to individuals and families experiencing homelessness and food insecurity.
It's like nostalgic, it makes you feel good, it's comfort food, and hopefully it'll bring back good memories for them.
Helen Coyne is the culinary arts instructor at Father Joe's Villages.
It is scratch cooking. The turkeys were deboned by hand, roasted off, sliced by hand. Potatoes, mashed potatoes, stuffing, everything was made from scratch. And the gravy, the turkey stock, just beautiful.
Topped off with a yummy berry pie. This festive meal provides important nutrition to a vulnerable population. Because of the pandemic, meals were individually packaged in to-go boxes instead of a sit-down meal.
We have 700 to 1,000 individuals, guests who will be joining us for this meal.
Deacon Jim Vargas is the president and CEO of Father Joe's Villages and says 1 out of 3 San Diegans are nutrition deprived.
Those who we serve, especially those who are on the streets, they feel isolated. The pandemic has just added to that and compounded it. And so this is an opportunity for them to come in and feel loved. All right, they have a family in us. We care for them. We care for their well-being.
Besides a Thanksgiving meal, people were also given a holiday care package.
It'll provide the socks to keep their feet warm. Also some sunglasses to shade their eyes. I mean, we know like with anybody, especially as you age, you could develop cataracts, right? So to shield the eyes is important as well. And then there's also hygiene products there as well.
Father Joe's Village's 20th annual Turkey Trot 5K takes place on Thanksgiving. The funds raised help feed the homeless through their meal program. Melissa May, KPBS News.
California took a major step this fall in recognizing and funding education to support Native American health care. KPBS education reporter MG Perez tells us about a UC San Diego effort to recruit Native American student doctors and bring health equity to indigenous peoples.
Paul Michael Acosta is now wrapped in what Native Americans call a blanket of knowledge. This is the first blessing and blanket ceremony held at the UC San Diego School of Medicine. It honored 8 Native Americans transitioning from medical students to second-year student doctors. Paul Michael is a member of the Arawak Nation.
If you are treated by someone who understands your cultural values and respects them and is able to relate to them and kind of mesh those into high-quality medical care, you get the best outcomes you possibly can for your patients.
This fall, UC San Diego was awarded $2.6 million in state money to fund medical student financial aid and development of programs to bring equity to health care for indigenous peoples. Bree Irons also received her blanket of knowledge, which she wears as a badge of honor and responsibility. ceremony. She says she's been described as white passing, a term some use to refer to Native Americans with light-colored skin. She's strongly against racist labels. At the encouragement of her Native grandfather, she actively supports her Chickasaw tribe and its younger generation.
We need to make changes in our education system, so more proactively working against discrimination so that the next generation doesn't encounter those same stereotypes.
My skin is not very dark. My skin is more red.
Dr. Michael Allison is a professor and chief of preventative medicine. He is also a member of the Chickasaw Nation, proud to lead more young doctors of his heritage into healthcare with a clear mission.
The needs of the reservations are being addressed, that they're being validated for what their needs are as a group that's been underrepresented in healthcare.
Only 1% of all UC San Diego students are Native American or Alaska Native. This is also a land-grant institution, which carries with it another special mission. Land-grant universities receive government funding designed to be used for affordable and quality higher education for underserved communities. That hasn't always been the case. The new state grant money will pay to increase the UC San Diego Medical School class size with room for 6 additional students next year, who will train to serve the Native American community and produce many more picture-perfect moments. MG Perez, KPBS News.
And as we've been reporting, a red flag warning is in effect over Thanksgiving. Jessica Pash has your complete forecast.
We're going to be watching as our gusty Santa Ana winds make a return here, lasting likely through the end of the week, bringing the risk for elevated to critical fire danger. And in anticipation of that, high wind watches and red flag warnings have already been posted. As we move into tonight, temperatures drop off into the low 50s for you in San Diego, 50 degrees in Ramona, upper 40s out towards Borrego Springs and Mount Laguna, getting down into the 30s. And again, those Santa Ana winds last all the way through Friday. That's going to bring the risk for dangerous crosswinds too, especially for high-profile vehicles with gusts anywhere from 30 to 50 miles per hour. Accurate with the local storm max there is 80 miles per hour. Blowing dust possible at times, and localized power outages also a concern here. Again, I mentioned high wind watches have been posted. We'll see if these turn into wind advisories or high wind warnings as we move forward. These are in effect through Thursday afternoon. Red flag warnings also in effect. These last all the way through Friday, as those gusty winds are going to be bringing in very, very dry air, and so low relative humidity, gusty winds, that spells the recipe for dangerous conditions when it comes to the possibility of fires here. So we'll have to keep a close eye on that as we move forward. Temperatures for your day tomorrow getting up into the mid-70s in Oceanside on your Thanksgiving Day, upper 60s in Ramona, mid-70s out towards Borrego Springs. And over the next several days, we'll see temperatures that are pretty mild near the coast. Upper 70s is looking like where we'll top out there on Friday before dropping off into the mid to low 70s for the weekend and heading into next week. Further inland, temperatures top out in the low 80s. That lasts all the way through the weekend before cooling off into the upper 70s as we head into next Monday. In the mountains, temperatures are on the rise here. In fact, over the next couple days, we'll be warming on up all the way through Monday, getting up into the low 60s by that point. And in the deserts, we're generally going to be sitting in the upper 70s to low 80s over the next 5 days. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Jessica Pash.
Today in Georgia, 3 men were convicted of murdering Ahmaud Arbery. The 25-year-old black man was running through a neighborhood when he was chased by the 3 white men and fatally shot. Arbery's murder, like George Floyd's, was captured on video. Both killings sparked nationwide protests last year, as well as unity runs. Nasara Garganu helped organize several I Run with Maud events in San Diego and is the captain of the local Black Men Run group. He says today's verdict is victory, even if it's just a first step.
You know, I'm not getting crazy to think now that the whole justice system is great now, but in this case, it was served, and I'm extremely happy. This really hit home because, I mean, during the whole pandemic, I was out running by myself in different neighborhoods around San Diego, and it didn't hit me and cross my mind until I saw that happen, and I was like, man, this could happen to me.
Gargano says he's working with other running groups to organize a run in honor and celebration of Ahmaud Arbery's life. The 3 men convicted in Arbery's murder face minimum sentences of life in prison. For decades last century, racism was baked into housing deeds in San Diego and across the U.S. iNewsSource investigative reporter Roxana Papascu spoke with the 2 men whose families wanted to buy homes in segregated right neighborhoods and faced major obstacles.
Today, Golden Hill is a diverse San Diego neighborhood, but 75 years ago, things were very different. Some cities across the nation, including here in San Diego, had widespread racial housing restrictions. They were called racial covenants, language typically in real estate deeds that dictated who could or couldn't buy a property. It's something Leon Williams, San Diego's first black city council member, encountered firsthand. When he bought his Golden Hill home in 1947, it was meant to go to a white homebuyer.
So that was a restrictive covenant on this area against anybody but Anglo-whites. As a matter of fact, it excluded even Italians and Jews and blacks and all Asians and anybody that was part of the covenant that was on this property.
Williams bought his house anyway, and he still lives there today. He says the seller lived out of town and never asked about his race. But Williams says these housing restrictions made America a more divided place for years to come.
Oh, they did a tremendous harm because they kept people from buying houses where they could have, and they perpetuated the notion of some people are not as good as other people because of color or because of origin. And I think it was harmful to the United States in those days especially, and still is harmful because people still have divisions based on some of those notions.
In 1948, the Supreme Court outlawed this type of racial housing discrimination, but as iNewsSource uncovered, racist language still exists in old deeds. I found more than 10,000 documents with clauses that excluded people of color and others from buying or renting real estate throughout San Diego County, mostly in the 1930s and 40s. Among homeowners, there's debate over how to handle covenants that remain on old deeds. Some say these phrases should be removed, and some say they should be preserved and studied. Not all homeowners even know their deed might have a racial restriction, but that's starting to change. University of San Diego law professor Mary Jo Wiggins says there's a recent increase in the number of people who want to know if their house has a covenant.
It seems like there's interest is really picking up. That's causing people to go back and look at their deeds and see, oh, could there be such a deed on my property? And many people are quite surprised, both white homeowners and homeowners of color, to find this legacy in their own deeds, their own property deeds.
The same year that Leon Williams, now 99, bought his home in Golden Hill, another family was struggling in San Diego's North Park neighborhood. Tom Hom, who is 94, was San Diego's first non-white city councilman. Hom's mother found a home that she thought was a good fit for her family.
It was a good house, had a lot of rooms, and fit us perfectly. The schools were near. That's what my mother wanted.
But when Hom's mother went to purchase the property, her real estate agent told her the neighborhood had racial housing restrictions. She feared her Chinese-American family with 12 children wouldn't be welcome. To help close the sale, she went door to door to meet the neighbors so they wouldn't object to the home purchase. For families like the Homs, there was a lot at stake. If complaints came forward, they faced potential legal action.
My mother was determined that she wanted the house. So before escrows, we made the purchase completed, she went to house by house within 4 blocks, introduced herself, and said that she had a number of children, and they're good. They never got in trouble. And so she made friends, and nobody complained.
Racist housing deeds persisted for decades, even after they were outlawed. iNewsSource found one example in San Diego County from 1969. A new California law aims to make it easier to uncover and amend these old deeds. Starting in 2022, real estate agents and others will have to disclose racial covenants. Lawmakers hope the new law will serve as a model for other states. For KPBS, I'm iNewsSource investigative reporter Roxana Papascu.
iNewsSource is an independently funded nonprofit partner of KPBS. And this story is part of a collaboration between KPBS, NPR, and iNewsSource. You can stream the entire series and read more anytime at kpbs.org.
I'm Amna Nawaz. Tonight on the NewsHour, the 3 men involved in the murder of Ahmaud Arbery are found guilty. That's coming up at 7 right after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Hi, I'm John Decker. Thank you for watching Evening Edition on KPBS. Now more than ever, local news is essential to our democracy, and KPBS is committed to delivering local news in San Diego and the Imperial Valley. Evening Edition, along with our other services on radio, digital, and podcasts, is how our news team delivers the news to you. How can we do it? With a passion for accurate storytelling and a commitment to excellence in journalism. But most importantly, we do it with your support, our members, our viewers. If you've already donated to KPBS, then we thank you very much for your continued support. If you haven't had a chance to donate, now is a great time to show how much you appreciate the news we deliver. So please go online and choose a level, pick a gift at kpbs.org, or call or text donate at 1-800-576-5727, and thank you.
The pandemic forced ComicCon International to cancel its in-person event 2 years in a row, but it returns to the San Diego Convention Center this Friday. KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando has this preview of the long-anticipated event.
The exhibit hall is now open to attendees.
It's been more than 2 years since I've heard those wonderful words, and this Friday I'll hear them again as ComicCon Special Edition arrives. But this year, attendees will need to queue up to prove their vaccination status before picking up their badges.
Safety is really a primary concern of ours. Everyone will need to be wearing a mask and have been vaccinated or proof of a vaccination or a negative COVID test.
That's David Glanzer, spokesperson for ComicCon International.
ComicCon is in excess of 135,000 attendees, and I think this show will be much smaller, probably half the size, maybe a little bit smaller still. I have a feeling that those people who remember ComicCon from some years ago may see some similarities to that.
So the exhibit hall will not be as crowded as in pre-pandemic times, and Hall H will serve as the staging area for registration instead of hosting huge Hollywood panels. But the lack of a Hollywood presence might mean that people will discover smaller panels, like one on an open-world video game about the untold mythical tales of ancient Mexico called Mictlan.
Malditos salvajes, aun con Dios de nuestro lado, me provocan.
Similarly, you won't find big companies like DC and Marvel this weekend on the exhibit floor, but their absence leaves room for new players like Patricio Ginelsa, who'll be promoting his film and comic book, Lumpia with a Vengeance.
This is the taquito everyone is talking about. It's not a taquito.
It's lumpia, the Filipino egg roll. The motives of the lumpia man are still unknown.
Well, definitely it is an opportunity for us independent creators to be seen and heard by the masses. But I also think it's a return to really what I believe the core of what Comic-Con is, right? It's always been about the creators. I think Comic-Con is literally the audience that we've always wanted to attract, and this is our big opportunity. I literally haven't wrapped my head around what's happening this week.
Like a screening of the film that he's hosting on Friday. ComicCon Special Edition will also feature a soft reopening of the ComicCon Museum.
One of the great things we've been able to do is to look into having a museum that will do pretty much what Comic-Con does throughout the year, which is focus attention on areas of popular art that a lot of people may not even realize is art.
This morning, the museum was buzzing with activity.
Well, we're still putting in the final touches on the exhibits. We expect that they'll be done by tonight, but there still may be a few things that have to happen on Friday morning.
Rita Vandegaw is executive director at ComicCon Museum.
And upstairs, we have an exhibit called A Reason to Survive, and it's all created by students, put together by students during the pandemic.
You can also find original art by cartoonist Charles Adams, 80 years of Archie comics, a retrospective on Star Trek creator Gene Roddenberry, and a room devoted to ComicCon Museum Character Hall of Fame inductee Pac-Man. There are also new spaces devoted to workshops and education,
which is a big component of what we are doing at ComicCon. ComicCon is known for its educational panels, so we're continuing that education theme.
A ComicCon badge will not get you access to the museum. Anyone who wants to visit just needs to buy a ticket online or at the door. ComicCon Special Edition will be gathering the nerd tribe in person to celebrate the popular arts, and that's something to be thankful for this holiday weekend. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
And this next story may sound a little like science fiction, but it actually is really happening. A NASA spacecraft is on a mission to crash into an asteroid on purpose. It launched from the Vandenberg Space Force based overnight. The asteroid isn't posing any threat to Earth, though, but NASA says it's a good test subject. The goal is to find out whether crashing a spacecraft into a speeding space rock will change its course in the extremely unlikely event that one might someday threaten Earth. Let's hope not. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. I'm Maya Trabulsi, and on behalf of everyone here at KPBS, happy Thanksgiving.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.